Lila's group text lit up at 3:47 in the afternoon, the exact moment I was wheeling the broken projector past the main office. 12 family members, one coordinated lie, Lenny's losing it. He can't take care of himself anymore. My phone buzzed with screenshots. My wife Sarah's number, conspicuously silent. I kept pushing that cart, watching the hallway camera blink red above me, the same camera that records every entrance, every exit, every whispered conversation in the alcove where Lila coaches her flying monkeys. She thinks I'm just the janitor. She doesn't know I'm the building's memory. The cart's left front wheel had been squeaking for 3 weeks. I'd been meaning to replace the bearing, but there's utility in predictable noise. It announces your presence. Gives people time to finish conversations they don't want you to hear. The projector inside was an Epson model, the kind the district bought in bulk 7 years back when grant money came through. Heavy. 30-some pounds of plastic housing and glass optics that bit into my palms when I lifted it, made my lower back remind me of that herniated disc from helping Lila move into her condo. That was before she decided I was incompetent. Before she decided Sarah needed protecting from me. The phone buzzed again. Another screenshot. I didn't look. Lila had been building this narrative since summer, back when humidity made the second-floor bathroom sweat and the air conditioning fought a losing battle. Small comments. Gentle concerns. She'd call Sarah after family dinners and I'd hear my wife's voice through the bedroom door, reassuring her that no, I hadn't forgotten anything important. But Lila's voice had a quality even through a phone speaker. Sticky. Persistent. Like syrup left too long on a countertop. I pushed the cart past locker 247. The hinge stuck since October when Tommy Brigham slammed it after losing a basketball game. I'd watched it happen on camera C19, archived the footage out of habit. The list in my head never empties, just reorganizes by priority. Stuck hinge ranks below broken projectors but above the bathroom faucet that drips after midnight. Lincoln High smelled like floor wax and teenage desperation this time of year. November pushed cold air through window seals I'd caulked 3 years ago, but caulk becomes brittle, stops doing its job. The building was 47 years old. Settling cracks in the northeast stairwell. Water stains on ceiling tiles that bloomed like fungus after heavy rain. The burned coffee smell from the teacher's lounge where someone always scorched the pot. Mrs. Chen needed the backup projector for honors history. Cold War lecture. Tuesday afternoons followed patterns as reliable as that squeaking wheel. She'd be standing outside her classroom now, arms crossed, tapping one foot in those flats she'd worn for 4 years, leather cracked along the flex points. I notice these things. I notice everything. My phone vibrated a third time. Sarah's ringtone, but not Sarah calling. Another forwarded screenshot from the group text I'd been removed from 3 months ago. I knew the exact date because it coincided with installing camera C43 in the east parking lot, the one with a coverage gap near visitor parking. After that, silence. But silence doesn't mean absence. It means someone decided you shouldn't hear what they're saying. The main office hallway stretched 43 feet from entrance to principal's suite. I'd measured it when they replaced tile in 2019. The camera above the entrance was one of mine. High definition, 32-degree downward angle to capture facial features. Motion activated. Backed up to district servers every 6 hours, retained for 2 years. The red light blinked steady. Recording. I stopped the cart directly beneath it. Looked up. Let it see my face clearly. Then I pulled out my phone. The screenshots showed 12 family members in a thread titled, Sarah's Support Network. My name in every message. Lenny forgot to pay the water bill. August. I'd paid it early, confirmation saved. He got lost driving to the grocery store. September. I'd rerouted for construction, arrived 10 minutes late. He called me by the wrong name. October. I'd called Lila by her ex-husband's sister's name, Linda. Deliberate. Linda had the same synthetic sweetness, the same way of turning concern into control. Lila hadn't corrected me. Just made a note for her narrative. 12 people. Cousins I saw once yearly. Sarah's college roommate in Florida. My nephew Tommy who never visited except when Lila coordinated it. All receiving a curated version of my decline. All believing it because why would Lila lie? Mrs. Chen appeared at the hallway's end. She raised one hand. I pocketed my phone and resumed pushing the cart, while squeaking in rhythm with my heartbeat. Steady. Mechanical. The fluorescent lights hummed at 60 cycles per second. Most people stopped hearing it after their first week. 22 years and I still heard that electrical drone underlying everything. I delivered the projector at 3:54. Mrs. Chen thanked me with distracted efficiency. I wheeled the empty cart back through C-Wing, past the stuck locker, under the blinking camera. My truck sat in spot 63 at the far end of staff parking. I'd parked there every workday since 2004 when they paved the new lot. 63 put me under an oak that dropped acorns like shrapnel every September but provided shade. The tree was older than the school. Pavement had buckled around its roots twice. They repaved around the buckling rather than cut it. Some things you work around. I sat in the truck with the engine off. The phone felt heavier than its 6.3 ounces. Lila wasn't trying to help Sarah. She was isolating me. Removing me from family decisions. The group text was phase 1. Establish consensus. Get everyone agreeing Lenny's declining. Then phase 2 would come. Concerned calls to my supervisor. Suggestions that Sarah needed legal protection. Power of attorney. Competency evaluation. All documented, official, irreversible. I'd seen this pattern before. Not personally, but structurally. Same logic as a failing building system. First the small signs. Cracks. Drips. Wrong sounds. Then escalation. Minor becomes critical. Manageable becomes emergency. By the time anyone calls for help, the damage is permanent. You can patch it. But the weakness remains. Unless you catch it early. Unless you document everything. Unless you understand the system better than the people trying to break it. I started the truck. Engine turned over smooth. 183,000 miles and it ran clean because I changed oil every 4,000 miles exactly. Maintenance logs in a spiral notebook in the glove box, cover gone soft from handling. Some people thought maintenance was boring. They were wrong. Maintenance was warfare. Preventive warfare against entropy. I drove home. 43 minutes in light traffic. Sarah's car sat in the driveway, front tires turned slightly left like always. The house was dark except the kitchen light. She'd be making dinner. Tuesday was pasta night. I parked beside her car, sat in the silence. The phone buzzed once more. Not a screenshot. Sarah herself. Can we talk after dinner? Lila called. The period instead of question mark told me everything. This wasn't a request. The intervention had moved to my kitchen table. I got out. My left knee popped when I straightened. The limp wasn't getting worse like Lila claimed. It was just there. Constant. A reminder that helping people sometimes breaks you in ways that don't heal. But breaks don't mean failure. Sometimes they mean you carried weight others couldn't. I walked to the house. Kitchen light made a yellow rectangle on dead November grass. Inside, something was boiling over. Sarah's voice, muffled through the door, on the phone. I know. I'll talk to him. Tonight. I stood with my hand on the doorknob. Cold brass, finish worn through where my grip landed every day for 31 years. 11,000 days of coming home to this door. The camera above the school office had recorded my face at 3:47. Time-stamped. Archived. Proof of where I was while Lila's lies multiplied. But proof only matters if someone's willing to look. I turned the knob. The kitchen smelled like scorched tomato sauce and lavender hand soap. Sarah stood at the stove, phone pressed to her ear, stirring a pot that had boiled over. Steam rose between us. He just got home, she said. Not to me. About me. I'll call you later. She hung up. Set the phone face down. Looked at me with an expression I'd been seeing more lately. Worry worn to weariness. Love complicated by something like pity. "We need to talk," she said. I nodded. "Walk to the basement door." "After dinner." "I need to check something first." The stairs creaked on step 7. The workshop smelled like sawdust and metal and concrete that never quite dries. My workbench sat against the far wall under a pegboard from 1998. Every tool in its designated outline. Order imposed on chaos. The laptop sat where I'd left it that morning. I opened it. Password 16 characters, changed quarterly. The screen showed a spreadsheet. My maintenance logs. Off the books. Every camera installation. Every coverage map. Every blind spot. 22 years of data. I scrolled to July. Found the entry I needed. Then I opened email and started typing. Mrs. Rodriguez, I need to schedule a meeting to discuss a family matter that may affect my employment. The basement stairs ended at a concrete floor I'd poured myself in 1997 when we bought this house. Sarah was pregnant with the son we'd lose 6 weeks later. I'd needed something to do with my hands, something that required precision and physical labor and no emotional language. The concrete had cured over 3 days in July heat. I'd misted it every 4 hours to prevent cracking, worked the surface with a steel trowel until my shoulders burned. 29 years later, that floor showed hairline fractures near the north wall where groundwater pushed through during heavy rain, but the surface remained level within a 1/4 inch across the entire space. Good enough. The workshop occupied the southeast corner. Fluorescent tubes overhead, the old magnetic ballast kind that took 3 seconds to warm up and hummed constantly. I'd replaced them with LED 4 years ago but kept the old housings because they fit the existing mounts. Efficiency matters more than aesthetics. No one sees this space except me. The workbench was maple. Solid. I'd built it from reclaimed church pews a contractor friend was throwing out after a renovation in 2001. The wood had been cut in the 1880s, growth rings so tight you needed magnification to count them. Old growth lumber, the kind you can't buy anymore. 4 inches thick. I'd sanded it by hand over 6 weekends, worked through 3 grades of paper until the surface felt like skin. The wood had absorbed decades of prayer and hymns and now it held my tools. Secular work. Different worship. I set my phone on the bench. The screen showed Sarah's message still displayed. "Can we talk after dinner?" Lila called. No question mark. Statement of fact. The intervention was scheduled and I was expected to cooperate. My laptop sat exactly where I'd left it that morning, 19 inches from the bench's left edge, power cord coiled in 3 loops secured with a Velcro strap. I opened it. The screen illuminated showing my maintenance spreadsheet, the unauthorized one I'd built over 2 decades. Columns for date, location, camera number, coverage angle, blind spots, archived footage notes. Rows stretching back to 2004 when the district first installed security systems and I'd been assigned to mount the cameras. They'd given me blueprints and equipment specs. I'd given myself an education in surveillance architecture. I scrolled to July 15th. The entry showed camera C43 installed in the east parking lot, visitor section. Coverage map attached. I documented the 30-degree gap between C43 and C22, a blind spot covering approximately 4 parking spaces including visitor spot 4B. The gap was intentional from a cost perspective. The district had 47 cameras covering 73,000 square feet of building and grounds. You couldn't monitor everything. You prioritized. Main entrances. High-value equipment rooms. Student congregation areas. Visitor parking ranked low priority. But low priority doesn't mean unmonitored. It means monitored differently. I'd installed a secondary camera. Personal equipment. A trail camera, the kind hunters use, mounted in a tree overlooking that exact blind spot. Motion activated. Infrared capable. SD card storage. Nothing connected to district networks. Nothing anyone knew about except me. I pulled the SD card reader from the desk drawer. The drawer's wooden slides had worn smooth from 25 years of opening and closing. They moved without sound. I inserted the SD card I'd collected from the trail camera 3 days ago during my evening walkthrough. The laptop recognized it immediately. 743 files. I filtered by date range. July through November. Then I filtered by time stamp. 1400 to 1500 hours. School day afternoon window. 37 files remained. I opened the first one. Lila's Honda Accord, silver, visible license plate, pulling into spot 4B at 2:07 in the afternoon on July 18th. She sat in the driver's seat for 43 seconds. Then her phone came up. I couldn't see the screen, but I could see her lips moving. The angle was perfect. I opened the second file. July 25th. Same location, same time window. Same phone conversation posture. The pattern continued through August, September, October. Every Thursday afternoon. Sometimes Tuesday. Always between 2 and 3 p.m. when she knew I'd be inside the building doing equipment deliveries, when she could park in that blind spot and make calls she thought were private. The laptop's internal fan kicked on. Small vibration through the bench. The machine was 4 years old, processor starting to lag on video files, but functional. I'd replace it when it failed completely, not before. Things work until they don't. I extracted audio from the trail camera files. The camera had a parabolic microphone designed for wildlife recording. Sensitive enough to pick up elk bugling at 200 yards. More than sufficient for a woman sitting in a car 30 feet away with her window cracked because the November weather was mild and she didn't want to run the air conditioning. I played the first audio file. Static. Wind noise. Then Lila's voice cutting through. Sarah, I'm telling you, something's off with Lenny. He forgot Tommy's name last week. I hadn't forgotten Tommy's name. I deliberately called him by his father's name, testing whether anyone would correct me or just accept the narrative that I was confused. No one corrected me. Second audio file. I think we need to start documenting this. Just in case. You know, for legal purposes. Third file. I talked to a lawyer friend. She said if we can establish a pattern, you could get power of attorney without his consent if it comes to that. The words came through the laptop speakers, thin and metallic but clear. Admissible. Probably not in court. Wyoming was a two-party consent state for recording conversations. But admissibility wasn't the goal. Truth was the goal. Leverage was the goal. I'd spent 22 years in a building where everything was recorded, monitored, documented. Students couldn't throw a punch without 3 cameras capturing different angles. Teachers couldn't make inappropriate comments without someone filing a report. The school functioned on a principle of total accountability enforced through surveillance and documentation. I'd learned that principle. Internalized it. Applied it to my own life. The trail camera was just an extension of that philosophy. If you want to know what people really think, watch what they do when they believe no one's watching. I opened a new spreadsheet. Started transcribing the audio files, time-stamping each statement, cross-referencing with my personal calendar to verify what I'd actually been doing at the moments Lila claimed I was confused or forgetful. July 18th, 2:07 p.m. Lila claimed I'd forgotten to lock the house that morning. My calendar showed I'd texted Sarah a photo of the locked front door at 7:32 a.m. before leaving for work. Routine documentation I'd been doing for years because I had a habit of second-guessing myself on small tasks. August 9th, 2:14 p.m. Lila claimed I'd gotten lost driving home from the grocery store. My credit card records showed I'd stopped at Henderson's Hardware on Maple Street, a deliberate detour to buy caulk for the bathroom window. Receipt time-stamped 3:47 p.m., home by 4:15. Not lost. Rerouted. September 23rd, 2:19 p.m. Lila claimed I'd called her by the wrong name. True. I'd called her Linda. Linda was her ex-husband's sister. Linda had the same voice pattern, same inflection, same way of asking invasive questions disguised as concern. The confusion was intentional. A test. She'd failed by not correcting me, by instead adding it to her evidence file that I was declining. My phone buzzed on the workbench. Sarah calling. I let it go to voicemail. Upstairs, the floor creaked. Her footsteps moving from kitchen to living room. The television came on. Muffled voices. She'd be watching something mindless, comfort programming, avoiding the conversation she'd promised Lila we'd have. I understood the impulse. Confrontation requires energy. Sarah had been exhausted for months. Her back hurt. Her job at the county assessor's office had doubled her workload after budget cuts eliminated 2 positions. She came home drained. When Lila called with concerns about me, it was easier to agree than to investigate. Easier to trust her sister than to question whether the sister might be lying. I didn't blame Sarah. I blamed myself for not addressing this in July when I first noticed the pattern. But addressing it would have required confrontation. Confrontation would have made me the problem. Why are you monitoring Lila? Why don't you trust family? Why are you being paranoid? Better to wait. Document. Let Lila escalate until her intentions became undeniable. That was the error. The virtue trap. I'd spent 31 years being the reasonable one. The peacemaker. The man who absorbed friction to keep family gatherings pleasant. When Lila made cutting comments disguised as jokes, I smiled. When she monopolized Sarah's time with invented crises, I stayed quiet. When she criticized my career choice, still mopping floors, Lenny, I changed the subject. The reward for swallowing disrespect is more disrespect. Silence gets interpreted as permission. Kindness gets mistaken for weakness. I'd taught Lila that I would accept anything to avoid conflict. Now she was testing the limits of that acceptance. Discovering there were no limits. Pushing further. The laptop screen dimmed into power save mode. I tapped the trackpad. The spreadsheet reappeared, rows of documented lies cross-referenced with time-stamped truth. 23 separate incidents where Lila had claimed I was confused or forgetful or declining, and 23 corresponding pieces of evidence proving otherwise. Evidence she didn't know existed. Evidence she couldn't have anticipated because she'd made the same mistake everyone made about janitors and maintenance workers and people who work with their hands. She'd assumed I was simple. That physical labor meant limited intelligence. That quiet meant stupid. The basement stairs creaked. Sarah descending. Her footsteps reached the bottom, hesitated, continued to the workshop. She appeared in the doorway backlit by the stairwell light, her face in shadow. "Dinner's ready," she said. "I'm not hungry. Lenny. I need to finish something. She's worried about you. We're all worried." I closed the laptop. Looked at her directly. "Who's we?" She shifted her weight. The floorboards complained. "Family. People who love you. Name them." "What?" "Name the people who are worried. Specifically." Her mouth opened. Closed. She was thinking about the group text, about the 12 names in that thread. Wondering how I knew. "This isn't, you're being difficult. I'm being precise. There's a difference." She turned. Walked back to the stairs. Stopped halfway up. "Lila wants to come by this weekend. To talk. Just talk." "No. Lenny, she's my sister. And this is my house. She's not welcome here." The words came out colder than I'd intended. Sarah's shoulders tightened. She continued up the stairs without responding. The door at the top closed. Not slammed. Pulled shut with deliberate restraint, which was worse. I reopened the laptop. Typed a new email to Janet Rodriguez, the district's HR director. We'd worked together for 18 years. She'd helped me navigate the paperwork when my mother died and I'd needed bereavement leave. She'd supported my requests for equipment upgrades when budget meetings got contentious. She understood that maintenance staff were infrastructure, not expendable. The email was brief. "Janet, I need advice on a personal matter that might affect my employment. Someone has been making calls about my competency. I want to get ahead of this before it becomes official. Can we meet?" I sent it. Checked the time. 8:43 p.m. She wouldn't respond until morning. I had 12 hours to decide how much I was willing to reveal, how much ammunition I was willing to deploy, how far I was willing to go to defend myself against someone who was supposed to be family. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The concrete floor was cold through my work boots. My left knee ached where it always ached, that old injury making itself known. The building's bones. My bones. All showing wear. All still functional. All still holding weight. Janet Rodriguez responded at 7:18 the next morning. My office. 10 a.m. Bring documentation. 3 sentences. No pleasantries. Janet communicated like she managed, efficiently. I arrived at the district administrative building at 9:47. Early. The building was newer than Lincoln High, built in 2012 with energy-efficient windows and LED lighting and an HVAC system that actually maintained consistent temperature. Everything the school wasn't. The administrative staff got the upgrades. The people who worked with students got whatever budget remained. I signed in at the front desk. The security guard, Marcus Webb, nodded recognition. We'd worked together on camera installations across 3 schools. He knew I understood surveillance systems better than the district's IT department. Rodriguez is expecting you, he said. Conference Room B. The conference room had windows overlooking the parking lot. Intentional design. Transparent meetings. Accountability. Janet sat at the head of the table with a legal pad and a pen, nothing else. No laptop. No phone. When Janet wanted to focus, she eliminated digital distraction. Close the door, she said. I closed it. Sat 3 chairs down from her. Neutral distance. She studied me for a long moment. Her expression was the same one she used during disciplinary hearings. Evaluative. Withholding judgment until all evidence was presented. Tell me, she said. I told her. Lila's group text. The narrative building. The claims of cognitive decline. The Thursday afternoon phone calls from the school parking lot. The trail camera documentation. The audio files. The cross-referenced evidence proving each claim was false. I spoke for 11 minutes without interruption. Janet took notes in shorthand I couldn't read. When I finished, she set down her pen. You recorded her without consent, she said. I recorded wildlife activity on district property. She happened to be in frame. Lenny. The camera was mounted on district land. Monitoring an area where district employees and visitors park. Standard security protocol. Janet's jaw tightened. She was thinking through the legal implications, the liability exposure, the optics of a janitor surveilling a family member on school grounds. Has she contacted me yet? I asked. Who? Lila. Has she called you asking questions about my performance or mental state? Janet's expression shifted slightly. Confirmation. Tuesday afternoon. She identified herself as your sister-in-law. Asked if we'd noticed any concerning behavior. Memory issues. Confusion. What did you tell her? That I couldn't discuss personnel matters with non-employees. Then I documented the call and flagged it for you. This was why I'd come to Janet. She understood procedure. Documentation. Covering exposure points before they became vulnerabilities. She's building a case, I said. For what? Power of attorney. Maybe conservatorship. She wants Sarah to believe I can't manage my own affairs. Janet picked up her pen again. Tapped it against the legal pad 3 times. Thinking rhythm. What do you want from me? Witness. If this escalates, I need someone from the district on record saying I'm competent, functional, performing my job without issues. You're one of our most reliable employees. 22 years, never late, never a performance complaint. Put it in writing. Lenny, I can't issue a formal statement without cause. It'll look like we're anticipating legal action. You are anticipating legal action. So am I. She was quiet. Outside the window, cars pulled into the parking lot. District administrators arriving for their 9-to-5 shifts. People who worked in climate-controlled offices and never touched the physical infrastructure that made their comfort possible. There's another approach, Janet said. What? Let her make contact again. When she does, I'll document it thoroughly. Multiple calls establish a pattern of harassment. That gives us justification for formal response. You want me to wait? I want you to let her hang herself. The phrasing was deliberate. Janet had grown up rural, ranch family, understood animal husbandry and predator management. Sometimes you didn't chase the coyote. You set the trap and waited. I nodded. How long? However long it takes. But Lenny, if you're documenting her activity, make sure it's airtight. Defense attorneys love attacking surveillance evidence. Time stamps, chain of custody, storage methods, everything needs to be clean. It's clean. Good. She stood. Meeting concluded. One more thing. If she shows up at the school, call me immediately. I'll have Marcus escort her off property. We don't tolerate harassment of staff. I left the administrative building at 10:33. Sarah had sent 2 texts while I was in the meeting. Lila wants to have dinner with us Friday. Please, and she's bringing her therapist friend to meet you. Just to talk. The therapist friend. Escalation. Not enough to have family consensus. Now she needed professional validation. Someone with credentials who could document concerns, recommend evaluation, start the official process of establishing incompetence. I sat in my truck and typed a response. Okay. One word. Complete capitulation. The strategic retreat. Let Lila believe she was winning. Let her commit further. Let her bring a therapist into my home where I controlled the environment, the documentation, the narrative. Sarah responded immediately. Thank you. I know this is hard. She loves you. We all do. Love as weapon. Love as justification for control. People who genuinely love you don't coordinate whisper campaigns about your mental decline. They don't make phone calls from blind spots. They don't recruit therapists for ambush interventions. But explaining that to Sarah would require her to acknowledge that her sister was capable of calculated cruelty. Easier to believe I was sick. Easier to trust Lila's concern than confront her manipulation. I drove to Lincoln High. Arrived at 11:02. Parked in spot 63 under the oak tree. The school day was in session, hallways empty except for the occasional student with a hall pass. I went to the maintenance office. Checked my work orders. 3 HVAC complaints. 1 broken projector. 2 requests for furniture moves. Standard Wednesday. I completed the work orders mechanically. Muscle memory. My hands knew the motions. Replace air filter. Reset circuit breaker. Swap projector bulb. Cart the desk from room 214 to room 109. Physical tasks that required no cognitive engagement, which freed my mind to plan. Friday dinner. Lila and her therapist. Sarah playing host, probably cooking something elaborate to mask the tension. The therapist would ask questions disguised as casual conversation. Memory tests. What did you have for breakfast? What year did you graduate high school? Can you remember what we talked about 5 minutes ago? I'd need to fail. Selectively. Small mistakes. Nothing dramatic enough to seem performed, but enough to confirm their suspicions. Make them confident. Make them commit. Thursday afternoon at 2:27, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Leonard Stokes. Male voice. Professional. Yes. This is Dr. Michael Pearson. I'm a colleague of Lila's. She mentioned you might be open to a conversation about some health concerns your family has noticed. She mentioned that. I want to assure you this isn't formal evaluation. Just a friendly discussion. Sometimes an outside perspective can be helpful. Tomorrow night. Dinner at my house. Oh, I wasn't aware. Yes, that would be fine. What time? 6:30. Perfect. I'll bring my wife. Make it more social, less clinical. His wife. Even better. More witnesses. More people who would later testify about my confusion, my hesitation, my obvious decline. More threads in Lila's documentation net. See you then, I said, and hung up. I sat in the maintenance office surrounded by tools and equipment and work orders. The afternoon sun came through the window at an angle that hit the dust particles floating in the air, made them visible. Thousands of tiny fragments suspended, drifting, subject to air currents they couldn't control. But dust settles eventually. Given time, given stillness, it falls. Gravity wins. Monday morning Janet Rodriguez called at 7:04. I was in the truck heading to work. She contacted me again, Janet said without preamble. Twice. Friday afternoon and this morning at 6:53. What did she say? Friday she asked if we had documentation of any workplace incidents involving you. Memory lapses, safety violations, anything that would support a competency concern. I told her we don't discuss personnel matters. This morning she tried a different approach. Said she was gathering information for your medical evaluation and could I provide employment verification and performance history. You documented both calls. Time-stamped, recorded, filed. She's building a paper trail, Lenny. She wants official documentation that supports her narrative. Good. Silence on the line. Then Janet's voice, quieter. You're letting her. I'm letting her commit. There's a difference between defense and entrapment. I'm not entrapping anyone. I'm just refusing to stop her from doing what she's already decided to do. Another pause. When this goes public, and it will go public, make sure you're the one holding the cards. Not her. I am. I ended the call. Pulled into spot 63 at Lincoln High. The oak tree was shedding the last of its leaves, dry brown things that collected around my tires. The morning was cold enough to see breath. My left knee complained when I got out of the truck, that old injury making its usual protest. I ignored it. Pain is just information. Inside, the school smelled like industrial cleaner and teenage body spray. The morning shift had already started. Students clustered at lockers, moving through their routines, oblivious to the maintenance infrastructure that made their education possible. I checked my work orders. 4 requests. 2 HVAC issues. 1 broken water fountain. 1 request to set up folding chairs in the gymnasium for an assembly. Standard Monday. I completed them without thinking. My hands knew the work. Replace thermostat battery. Tighten loose fountain fixture. Unfold 120 chairs in rows of 15. Mechanical tasks. My mind was elsewhere. Calculating. At 10:47 my phone buzzed. Sarah. Lila scheduled your appointment with Dr. Pearson. Wednesday at 2 p.m. His office on Brandywine Street. Okay. You'll go. I said I would. Thank you. She was relieved. Grateful. She thought I was cooperating. She didn't understand that cooperation and strategy can look identical until the moment they diverge. I texted back. Can Lila come to dinner again tonight? I want to apologize for being defensive Friday. 3 dots appeared. Sarah typing. Stopping. Typing again. Really? Really? I've been thinking about what Dr. Pearson said. He's right. I need help. The response came fast. Lenny, I'm so glad. Yes. I'll call her now. She'll be so happy. Happy. Lila would be thrilled. Victory arriving faster than anticipated. The difficult brother-in-law finally broken, finally compliant, finally ready to sign whatever documents they put in front of him. I worked through lunch. Didn't eat. My stomach was a clenched fist anyway, tension manifesting as physical tightness. At 3:27 Sarah texted again. Lila's coming at 6. She's bringing paperwork. Medical proxy forms. Just in case you want to get ahead of things. Medical proxy. Not power of attorney yet, but the foundation. Sign over medical decision-making authority and the rest would follow. One document leads to another. One signature enables the next. That's how control transfers. Incrementally. Politely. With your own cooperation. I left work at 4:15. Stopped at Office Depot. Bought a document scanner, the portable kind that feeds through a phone app. $129. Stopped at Best Buy. Bought a second phone. Prepaid. Untraceable. $97. Went home. Sarah's car was already there. I could smell cooking from the driveway. She was trying. Making an effort. Trying to create an atmosphere of family warmth and reconciliation. I went to the basement first. Connected the scanner to my primary phone. Tested it. Clean scans, high resolution, automatic upload to cloud storage. Then I activated the prepaid phone. Installed the same voice recorder app. Tested the audio. Clear. I positioned both phones in the dining room. Primary phone on the sideboard again, same position as Friday. Prepaid phone inside the china cabinet, lens pointing through the glass door, angled to capture the table. Redundancy. If one failed, the other would catch it. If they discovered one, they wouldn't know about the second. At 5:53 I changed clothes. Button-down shirt. Khakis. The uniform of compliance. Sarah was setting the table when I came upstairs. "You look nice," she said. Trying. "I know this is hard. But you're doing the right thing." The right thing. Subjective term. Right for whom? Right according to which value system? Lila arrived at 6:08. She wasn't alone. Dr. Pearson was with her. He carried a leather folder, the kind lawyers use. Expensive. Professional. Sarah looked surprised. "Michael, I didn't know you were coming." Lila thought it might be helpful, he said. "Since Lenny's being so cooperative, we could review the forms together. Answer any questions. Make sure everyone's comfortable. Translation, witness the signing. Provide professional credibility. Make it harder for me to claim coercion later." "Of course," Sarah said. "Come in. Dinner's almost ready." We sat. Ate. The conversation was lighter than Friday. Lila was animated, cheerful. She touched Sarah's arm frequently, made jokes, laughed. Victory behavior. The predator relaxing after the prey stops running. Dr. Pearson asked about my work. I described it simply. Maintenance. Fixing things. Keeping the building running. Must be satisfying, he said. Seeing immediate results from your efforts. It is. Do you find the work becoming more difficult? Physically or mentally? The evaluation had already started. Casual questions gathering baseline data. Sometimes. I'm not getting younger. None of us are, he said, smiling. That's why planning ahead is so important. Making sure we have support systems in place before we need them. After dinner, Lila cleared the plates. Sarah made coffee. Dr. Pearson opened his leather folder and pulled out papers. 3 documents. Stapled packets. These are standard medical proxy forms, he said. They give Sarah authority to make healthcare decisions if you're unable to do so yourself. Very common for married couples. What does unable mean? I asked. Incapacitated. Unconscious. Cognitively impaired to the point where you can't understand treatment options. Am I cognitively impaired? He glanced at Lila. She jumped in. Lenny, we're just being prepared. After Wednesday's evaluation, we'll know more. But having these in place means Sarah can help you if you need it. What else? I pointed to the other documents. This is a durable power of attorney, Dr. Pearson said. It gives Sarah authority over financial decisions. Again, only if you're incapacitated. And this one. Advanced directive. Your wishes regarding end-of-life care. 3 documents. Complete control transfer. Medical, financial, existential. Sign all 3 and I'd be legally neutered. Every decision subject to Sarah's approval, with Lila whispering in Sarah's ear. I need to read them first, I said. Lila's smile tightened. Of course. Take your time. I read. Slowly. The medical proxy language was standard. But the power of attorney had a clause buried in paragraph 7. This power becomes effective immediately upon signing and remains in effect regardless of the principal's capacity unless explicitly revoked in writing. Immediately upon signing. Not upon incapacitation. The moment I signed, Sarah would have legal authority over my finances whether I was competent or not. Wednesday at 1:43 I drove to Dr. Pearson's office on Brandywine Street. The building was new construction, brick and glass, the kind of medical complex that housed psychologists and dentists and plastic surgeons. Professions that dealt in improvement, correction, optimization. The parking lot was half full. I parked in a spot near the entrance. Sat for a moment with the engine running. My phone showed 2 missed calls from Lila. She'd want to coordinate. Make sure I showed up. Make sure Sarah accompanied me to provide her observations to the doctor. I hadn't told Sarah I was going alone. She'd assumed she was coming. This morning at breakfast she'd said, we should leave at 1:30 to get there early, and I'd nodded. Then at noon I'd texted her, running an errand first. I'll meet you there. She'd responded with a question mark. I'd replied, trust me. The office waiting room smelled like lavender and new carpet. Instrumental music played from hidden speakers, the kind of aggressively calming sound designed to reduce anxiety. The receptionist smiled when I approached. Leonard Stokes. Yes. Dr. Pearson is running a few minutes behind. Please have a seat. I sat. Pulled out my phone. 3 more missed calls now. Lila. Sarah. Lila again. A text from Sarah. Where are you? Lila's here. We're both worried. I didn't respond. Let them worry. Let them wonder if I'd gotten confused, gotten lost, proved their narrative correct by failing to navigate to a simple appointment. At 2:09 the inner door opened. Dr. Pearson appeared. His smile was professional but his eyes went to the waiting room entrance, looking for Sarah. Leonard. Just you today? Just me. Is Sarah joining us? No. Something shifted in his expression. Calculation. The evaluation would be different without Sarah present to provide collateral information. Harder to build the clinical picture. Well, come on back. His office was decorated in neutral tones. Beige walls. Abstract art. A desk with a laptop and a leather chair. 2 chairs facing the desk for patients. I sat in the one closest to the door. Dr. Pearson settled behind his desk. Opened a file. My name on the tab. Before we begin, I want to explain what today's evaluation involves. We'll do some cognitive screening. Memory tests, attention tasks, problem solving. Nothing invasive. The goal is to establish a baseline and identify any areas of concern. Okay. I'll also ask about your daily functioning. Any difficulties you've noticed. Changes in mood, behavior, routine. Okay. He pulled out a printed form. Started with basic questions. Name. Date. Current president. I answered correctly. Then he moved to memory tasks. I'm going to read you a list of words. After I'm done, I want you to repeat as many as you can remember. Ready. Ready. He read 5 words. Apple. Table. Quarter. Cloud. Hammer. I repeated them back. All 5. No hesitation. His pen moved across the form. Good. Now I'm going to ask you to count backward from 100 by 7s. I did. 100. 93. 86. 79. 72. 65. He stopped me at 58. Excellent. Now I'm going to show you some images and ask you to identify them. He turned his laptop screen. Showed me simple line drawings. Clock. Bicycle. Elephant. Trumpet. I named each one immediately. The evaluation continued for 37 minutes. Memory tasks. Attention tests. Pattern recognition. Language fluency. I performed well. Not perfectly. I hesitated twice deliberately, pretended to search for a word once, paused before answering a spatial reasoning question. Enough to suggest mild difficulty. Enough to be ambiguous. Not enough to confirm significant impairment. When we finished, Dr. Pearson leaned back in his chair. Your performance today was largely within normal range for your age and education level. Largely. There were a few areas where you showed slight hesitation. Nothing alarming. But combined with the observations your family has reported, it suggests we should monitor things closely. What observations? The memory lapses. Confusion about dates and times. Difficulty with routine tasks. Who reported those? He glanced at the file. Your sister-in-law provided most of the collateral information. Your wife corroborated some of the concerns. What specifically did Lila say? Leonard, this isn't about blame. Everyone's trying to help you. What specifically? He was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out another paper from the file. Handwritten notes. Lila's writing. I recognized it from birthday cards and grocery lists she'd left at our house. She documented 14 separate incidents over the past 6 months. Forgetting appointments. Calling people by wrong names. Getting lost while driving. Leaving the stove on. Not recognizing familiar locations. The stove. Yes. She said Sarah came home to find it on with nothing cooking. You'd forgotten you turned it on. When was this? September 23rd. I pulled out my phone. Opened my photos. Scrolled to September. Found the image I needed. Turned the phone toward Dr. Pearson. That's our stove. September 23rd at 4:17 in the afternoon. You can see the timestamp. All burners off. Sarah and I were at her cousin's wedding in Boulder that entire weekend. We didn't get home until Sunday night. He stared at the image. This could be from any day. Check the metadata. I handed him the phone. He tapped through the settings. Found the embedded date and location data. His face changed. This doesn't necessarily mean, it means Lila lied. I pulled out my tablet from my jacket. Opened a spreadsheet. I've documented every incident she reported. Cross-referenced with credit card receipts, text messages, photos, work logs, and security camera footage. 14 incidents. 14 false claims. Would you like to see them? His jaw tightened. I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish. I'm trying to establish truth. You're evaluating me based on false information. That compromises your clinical judgment. Family members don't usually fabricate concerns. Usually. But sometimes they do. Sometimes they have reasons. I opened another file on the tablet. Audio file. This is from Friday dinner at my house. You were there. I pressed play. Lila's voice filled the office. He's sick. He's always been selfish. You married him because you felt sorry for him. Then her voice again. When Dr. Pearson confirms what everyone already knows, you're going to have to make a choice. I stopped playback. You were witness to that conversation. Is that the voice of someone concerned about my welfare? Dr. Pearson's face had gone pale. You recorded us. I recorded dinner in my own home. You were a guest. Wyoming is a one-party consent state for recordings on private property. I'm the one party required to consent. This is evidence of a coordinated effort to establish incompetence. Look at your notes. Count the incidents Lila reported. Now count how many Sarah independently confirmed without Lila's prompting. He looked down at the file. His finger traced through the handwritten notes. Most of these came from Lila. All of them came from Lila. Sarah just agreed because she trusted her sister. But trust based on lies is manipulation. I opened a third file. This is Lila making phone calls from Lincoln High parking lot. She didn't know about the security cameras. Or the trail camera I installed to monitor a blind spot. I played a 30-second audio clip. Lila's voice clear. I talked to a lawyer friend. If we can establish a pattern, you could get power of attorney without his consent. Dr. Pearson closed the file folder. Why are you showing me this? Because you're being used. She brought you into this thinking you'd provide professional credibility. Medical documentation she could use legally. Thursday morning at 9 I sat in Janet Rodriguez's conference room with 3 USB drives, my tablet, and a printed timeline spanning 6 months. Janet arrived with Marcus Webb and the district's legal counsel, a woman named Patricia Chen who handled employment law and liability issues. No relation to Mrs. Chen who taught history. Just another coincidence in a world full of them. I presented everything methodically. Timeline first. Lila's contact attempts with the district. The fabricated medical incidents. The coordinated effort with Dr. Pearson. Then the evidence. Audio recordings. Trail camera footage. The evaluation report showing normal cognitive function. The power of attorney documents with the immediate effect clause. Patricia Chen took notes on a legal pad, her pen moving steadily. When I finished, she set down the pen. This is textbook harassment with intent to interfere with employment. If she contacts the district again, we'll issue a formal cease and desist. If she persists after that, we'll pursue legal action for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I don't want legal action, I said. I want documentation. Official record that this happened and that the district investigated and found no merit to her claims. We can do that, Janet said. I'll prepare a summary report for your personnel file. Shows the investigation, the findings, the outcome. If anyone ever questions your competency, the record will show this was a targeted harassment campaign, not legitimate concern. Thank you. Marcus leaned forward. I'm coming by Saturday to install your security system. We'll cover every approach to the property. After what I just heard, you need more than trail cameras. I nodded. Left the administrative building at 10:37. The morning was cold. First real freeze of the season. Ice forming on puddles in the parking lot. Winter arriving. At Lincoln High, the maintenance schedule continued unchanged. HVAC complaints. Broken equipment. The daily rhythm of keeping a building functional. My hands knew the work. My mind was elsewhere. Processing. Sarah had texted at 8:45. Lila called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Do you want to hear it? I'd replied, no. Whatever Lila had to say didn't matter anymore. Friday afternoon Sarah came home early. I was in the basement workshop organizing tools. She appeared at the bottom of the stairs holding her phone. My mom called. Lila told her you're having a breakdown. That you accused her of trying to steal from you. That you've become paranoid and possibly dangerous. What did you tell her? I sent her the recordings. Sarah's voice was flat. Emotionless. All of them. And. She called back 20 minutes later. Said she can't believe Lila would do something like this. Said she's ashamed. Said she won't be speaking to Lila until she apologizes to both of us. Will she apologize? No. Lila doesn't apologize. She doubles down or disappears. Sarah sat on my workbench stool. The one I'd built for her. My cousin Diane called too. And Tommy. And Sarah's college roommate. Lila's been calling everyone. Trying to control the narrative. Let her. They're all asking for your side. So give it to them. I am. I'm forwarding the recordings to anyone who asks. Let them decide who's telling the truth. She looked around the workshop. At the pegboard with its organized tools. The maple workbench worn smooth. The concrete floor with its hairline cracks. You built all this. Over 29 years. You build things that last. I try. Lila destroys things. Relationships. Trust. She's always been like this but I didn't see it. Or I did see it and I made excuses because she's family. Sarah's hands were folded in her lap. She tried to destroy you and I helped her. You didn't know. I should have known. You've never given me reason to doubt you. Not in 31 years. But I doubted you anyway because she sounded so certain. Certainty isn't truth. It's just confidence in a narrative. She was so confident. That's how manipulation works. Confident lies repeated often enough start sounding like truth. Especially when they come from people you're supposed to trust. Sarah stood. Walked to the pegboard. Traced her finger along the outline of a hammer. What happens now? Now we live. Same as before. Just without Lila. Is it really that simple? It is. Saturday morning Marcus arrived with his truck full of equipment. Security cameras. Mounting brackets. Cabling. We spent 6 hours installing comprehensive coverage. Every entrance. Every window. Every approach to the property. Cameras with night vision and motion detection and audio recording. All connected to cloud storage with redundant backups. While we worked, Marcus asked questions. How long had this been going on? Why I documented everything. Whether I'd considered going to police. I answered honestly. 6 months. Because documentation is defense. No, because this wasn't criminal, just cruel. When we finished, Marcus tested the system. Pulled up the feeds on my phone. 12 camera angles. Complete coverage. No blind spots. Anyone comes on your property uninvited, you'll have evidence, he said. Time-stamped, archived, admissible. Thank you. Family stuff is always the worst. People think blood relation means unlimited access. They forget boundaries still apply. He packed his tools. Refused payment beyond materials cost. You've helped me on enough district projects. Consider this professional courtesy. After he left, I sat on the porch. The security cameras blinked red. Recording. The property was fortified now. Protected. But protection felt different than I'd expected. Not secure. Just sad. Sad that it was necessary. Sad that family had become threat. Sad that trust had been weaponized so completely that surveillance was the only defense. Sunday morning Sarah and I drove to church. We'd skipped the past 2 weeks. Avoiding people. Avoiding questions. But absence just generates more questions. Better to appear. Show normalcy. Demonstrate that we were fine. People stared. Whispered. Small town dynamics. Everyone knew everyone's business, or thought they did. After service, 3 people approached. Asked how I was doing. Asked if everything was okay. I said yes. Fine. Just family complications. Nothing serious. They nodded. Moved on. Gossip satisfied. Monday morning at work, Principal Morrison called me to his office. I knocked. Entered. He was at his desk with paperwork spread across the surface. Lenny. Sit. I sat. He looked at me over his reading glasses. Janet Rodriguez called. Gave me a summary of what's been happening. Okay. She said you handled it appropriately. Documented everything. Didn't retaliate. Just defended yourself. Yes. Good man. He returned to his paperwork. Meeting concluded. That was Morrison's style. Minimal words. Maximum efficiency. I returned to work. Fixed an HVAC issue in the science wing. Replaced a broken door handle. Refilled paper towel dispensers in the second-floor bathrooms. Normal tasks. Routine work. The building needed me the same as always. Indifferent to my personal drama. Thanksgiving approached. Normally we'd host. Sarah's family would gather. Lila would bring a pie. Someone's kids would break something. Normal chaos. Normal family. This year Sarah asked what I wanted to do. Just us, I said. You're sure? I'm sure. My mom will be disappointed. Your mom can visit another time. Without Lila. We spent Thanksgiving alone. Cooked a small turkey. Made stuffing. Watched football. The house was quiet. Peaceful. No performance warmth. No hidden agendas. Just us. That evening Sarah's phone rang. Her mom. She answered. Talked for 40 minutes. I could hear her mother's voice through the speaker.